Lila grew up in a small coastal town where the scent of salt and the sound of crashing waves were part of her everyday life. At 16, she often felt as though the world around her was too small, too predictable. Her life revolved around her mother, a gentle woman who worked tirelessly as a seamstress, and the memories of her father, a fisherman lost to the sea before Lila could even remember him. Her mother, overprotective since her father's disappearance, kept Lila close, always warning her of the dangers that lay beyond their town. Though Lila loved her mother deeply, she felt a longing inside her, a hunger for adventure and the unknown. She would spend her afternoons sitting by the shore, watching the horizon stretch endlessly into the distance, imagining the worlds that lay beyond it. Books became her escape, stories of faraway lands, grand adventures, and lives so different from her own filled her mind and dreams. She sketched maps of places she wanted to visit, though she knew they were only fantasies. Her mother often caught her staring out to sea and would caution her, saying, "The sea is beautiful, but it's dangerous. It took your father from us. Don't let it take you too." Despite her mother's words, Lila couldn't help but feel that her life was waiting for her out there, beyond the horizon. One day, while walking near the docks, Lila met a traveler named Adrian. He was a few years older than her, with suntanned skin and a carefree smile. Adrian had been sailing from town to town, seeing the world in a way Lila had only dreamed of. He noticed her staring at his ship and struck up a conversation. At first, Lila was shy, but Adrian's tales of far-off places and adventures slowly drew her in. He spoke of bustling cities, serene islands, and towering mountains. The more he talked, the more Lila felt a pull towards the life he described. Adrian quickly became a regular part of Lila's days. She would meet him by the docks whenever he returned from his travels, and they would talk for hours. He told her about the cities with streets of gold, islands with year-round blossoms, and ships that sailed into the stars. Lila found herself captivated by his stories, each one stoking the fire inside her. It wasn't long before Adrian offered Lila a chance to join him. "I can take you with me," he said one evening, as they watched the sun set over the water. "You don't have to stay here forever. There's a whole world out there waiting for you." The offer left Lila both exhilarated and terrified. She wanted more than anything to see the world, but the thought of leaving her mother behind filled her with guilt. One evening, she gathered the courage to talk to her mother about her dreams. "Mama, I've been thinking," Lila began, her voice trembling slightly. "I want to leave. I want to see the world before it's too late." Her mother's face, usually so soft and kind, tightened with fear. "You can't go, Lila. The world out there is full of danger. You're all I have left." "I know it's dangerous," Lila said gently, "but I need to see it for myself. I'll come back, I promise. But I can't stay here forever." Her mother's eyes filled with tears, and for days, she tried to convince Lila to stay. But Lila had already made her decision. She knew if she didn't go now, she might never have the courage again. The night before Adrian was set to leave, Lila packed a small bag and left a note for her mother. She met Adrian at the docks before dawn, her heart heavy with both excitement and sorrow. As the ship pulled away from the shore, Lila looked back one last time, seeing the familiar town growing smaller until it disappeared from view. At first, the journey was everything Lila had hoped for. The sea was vast and beautiful, the wind in her hair made her feel alive in ways she had never experienced before. She spent her days helping Adrian and the crew, learning about navigation and the stars. Every evening, Adrian would sit with her on the deck, pointing out constellations and telling her more stories about the places they would visit. Lila felt free, as though she had finally stepped into the life she had always dreamed of. But as the days stretched into weeks, the reality of life at sea began to set in. It was hard work, and not all days were filled with wonder. Storms loomed on the horizon, the crew grew weary, and supplies became scarce. Lila, who had once felt invincible, began to feel the strain. Then, one night, a storm unlike any she had ever seen struck. The wind howled and the waves towered over the ship, tossing it about like a toy. Lila clung to the railing, her heart pounding with fear as the ship creaked and groaned beneath her. In the chaos, she was thrown overboard. The icy water swallowed her, pulling her under. For a moment, she thought she would drown, but instinct kicked in, and she managed to grab hold of a piece of floating debris. The storm raged on for what felt like hours, and Lila drifted, clinging to the wood, her body exhausted and cold. When the storm finally passed, she found herself alone in the middle of the ocean, with no sign of Adrian or the ship. After hours of drifting, Lila was washed ashore on a deserted island. Weak and disoriented, she crawled onto the beach and collapsed. When she woke, the sun was high in the sky, and she realized she was stranded. The island was beautiful, lush trees, clear streams, and white sandy beaches, but there was no sign of civilization. She searched the coastline for any wreckage from the ship, but found nothing. Lila was truly alone. The days on the island were long and difficult. At first, Lila struggled to survive. She foraged for food, built a makeshift shelter, and started a fire every night, hoping that someone would see the smoke. But as days turned into weeks, she began to lose hope of being rescued. The solitude weighed heavily on her. She missed her mother, the small comforts of home, and even the simplicity of her old life. Yet, in her isolation, Lila began to change. She learned to navigate the island, finding better sources of food and water. She grew stronger, more resourceful. In her moments of quiet, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had left home in search of adventure, but now she realized that adventure came with challenges she hadn't anticipated. She started keeping a journal, writing down her thoughts, her dreams, and the lessons she had learned. She wrote letters to her mother, hoping that one day she would deliver them in person. The island became both her prison and her teacher, shaping her into someone she never thought she could be. After months on the island, Lila spotted a ship on the horizon. She quickly gathered dry leaves and branches, lighting a massive signal fire. She waved her arms, screaming at the top of her lungs. To her immense relief, the ship changed course and headed toward her. As it drew closer, Lila felt a surge of emotion, gratitude, joy, and a bittersweet sadness for the life she had led on the island. The ship's crew, weathered sailors much like Adrian's, took her aboard. They told her that Adrian's ship had been lost in the storm and that no survivors had been found. The news hit Lila hard. Adrian had been her companion on this journey, the one who had sparked her desire to leave, and now he was gone. But Lila also knew that she had gained something valuable from this experience: strength, resilience, and a deeper understanding of herself. When the ship returned to her coastal town, Lila stepped onto familiar ground with a mixture of relief and trepidation. She had left this place as a young girl filled with dreams and naivety. Now, she returned as a woman who had faced the unknown, survived against the odds, and learned to stand on her own. The streets, the houses, even the air felt different to her now. As she approached her old home, Lila's heart raced. She wasn't sure how her mother would react to her return. When she knocked on the door, her mother opened it almost instantly, as if she had been waiting all this time. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, the weight of all that had happened hanging between them. Then, without a word, her mother pulled her into a tight embrace. "I thought I'd lost you," her mother whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so sorry, Mama," Lila said, tears streaming down her face. "I had to go. But I'm home now." Her mother pulled back slightly, cupping Lila's face in her hands. "You've grown so much," she said, her eyes filled with both love and sorrow. "I was so afraid the world would take you from me. But I see now, it's made you stronger." In that moment, Lila realized that her journey had come full circle. She had left home seeking adventure, but in the end, the most important discovery she had made was within herself. She had found her strength, her courage, and her place in the world, not by escaping it, but by embracing both its beauty and its challenges. Lila settled back into her life in the small town, but she was no longer the restless girl who had longed to escape. She knew the world was vast and full of wonders, but she also knew that she carried those wonders with